I hereby call this special meeting of the Brockton City Council to order. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. A quorum is present. Mr. Clerk.
Item number 1, call of the meeting.
Accepted and placed on file.
Item number 2, officer's return of notice.
Accepted and placed on file.
Item 3, the matters to be acted upon are the City Council approval and adoption of the fiscal year 2024 budget order for appropriations as presented or amended, and all other related matters.
Okay. Councillor Lally.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to cut the budget of the Office of Immigration Services by the total of $352,295.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
If I may,
All right.
I just want to stress to my colleagues and to the folks at home that this is a procedural matter. We have a long-established precedent of not funding departments or offices within departments that have not been created by ordinance. So we have done this pretty much every year that the council has met and voted on the budget. There's usually a position or two that depends on an ordinance. The ordinance has not been either filed or passed yet, and so we do cut that. So I'm making that same measure today because this is a department that has not been ordained yet, and we can't put gas in a car that isn't built yet.
Okay.
So that's my measure. Thank you.
Thank you. On the motion, Councillor Mendez.
Yes, so despite the fact that I do understand the procedural part of it, I'm still going to be voting against this motion to cut entirely from this budget of immigration services, because it is, when we pass a budget, we're passing what is our values and priorities for the city. And this is something that the community has been asking, and I'm very proud of the mayor for putting this on our budget, for supporting, for talking about it and seeing the need in this city. So I just wanted to make sure that we have money set aside for this priority and to send the message that this is something that we as a councilors in this body support in the city. And I just wanted to make sure that it would go through and still pass and be able to set that money aside. And then once the position is created, being able to come back and do procedurally and after the fact, but at least we're setting that money aside. And I want to make sure that I'm on the record voting against this amendment for that reason, because I think it's very important for us in the city to support this cause and this measure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other discussion? Councillor Farwell.
Madam President, not that I mind jumping up and down, but because we have a lot of different amendments, at least I do, would Madam President allow us to remain seated so that we'd have access to our materials?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Well, I'll stand for this one, and I just want to comment on the reduction that Councilor Lally mentioned. I think we'd be tone deaf if we created another department right now where we're looking at issues in the schools, where we're trying to be fiscally conservative, and where the mayor still has the option of appropriating money and putting a person on staff that could really make a big difference for our immigrant community to provide assistance. And I also think, frankly, rather than just having a department, if you're on mayor's staff, at least as far as I'm concerned, that carries quite a bit of credibility, and it means access to the mayor. And I do have great respect for Councilor Mendez, Representative Mendez, but I don't think that this proposal by Councilor Lally in any way diminishes our commitment to what needs to be done. I think it just mentions a better way of providing funds to accomplish the same thing. So I hope that his motion prevails.
Thank you. Someone else? Okay. Let's vote. All in favor?
On the amendment, right.
On
On the cut.
Okay.
the cut?
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. It carries. Okay. Someone else? Councillor Farwell.
Madam President and councilors, I'll try to be rapid on these. My first one is a move to reduce from ordinary maintenance in the mayor's office relating to cable access, and this is on page 315, 315 in your budget book. Each year, we provide $675,000 to Brockton Community Access. And by the way, I fully support that organization. I think we have extremely talented people working there. But let's be honest, we've had a lot of glitches. We've had a lot of programs that unfortunately were broadcast where the audio or the video was compromised. I've gotten complaints about it, and what I would like to have is a reduction of $337,500. That would leave $337,500 for Brockton Community Access, and the remainder, or the reduction, could be funded at a later date when we have an updated agreement with Brockton Community Access as to exactly the services that will be provided to the city, how technical issues will be resolved, how quickly, periodic reports, either to us or to the city clerk's office. I mean, I think we have an obligation as councilors to make sure that our residents can view city government and know what's going on. So this is more of an accountability cut. It is not a cut that in any way reflects a lack of support for Brockton Community Access.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is made and properly seconded. And councilors, let the record reflect that Councilor Tom Minicello has stepped out of the room, and also that Ward 2 Councilor Maria Tavares is not here due to work obligations. Okay, is there any discussion on this? All right, then let's vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, why don't you continue?
All right, I'm now going to continue to the Health Department, page 164 in the budget book. As all of you know, there is an ordinance that has been filed to create a Department of Health and Human Services. And changing to a Department of Health and Human Services goes back to 2019 when Councilor Rodriguez was mayor. It is critically important we do this. We simply do not have, in my judgment, the type of robust health services and health programs and health enforcement that we need. So having said that, and knowing that we will have a new department later on, obviously the health department needs some funding to continue until that ordinance is finalized. So my proposal is to give them sufficient funding for 3 months, for July, August, and September. And by October 1st, we should have an ordinance in place that will create a new department, or in the alternative, if for some reason the council chooses not to do that, the mayor could certainly come back and appropriate the funds that are needed. So I would move to reduce the health department appropriation by personal services other than overtime, $830,654.25. That would leave them $276,884.75 for a 3-month period.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilor Minicello.
I can see the reasoning, some of the reasoning from Councilor Farwell. I just think that cutting that much sends a message to all the staff that perhaps the department, I don't know, I just think it sends a bad message to the staff that their jobs are going to be totally eliminated. I feel that a cut is in order, but I just don't feel that it should be as much as 75% of the overall budget. That's my feelings.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Well, then let's vote. All in favor?
Roll call vote, please.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Clerk, Madam Clerk?
Azak?
Yes.
D'Agostino?
No.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
No.
Mendez,
Yes.
Minicello,
No.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Texera,
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
Carries 6-4.
6 to 5.
6 to
6 to
4.
4. 6 to 4. Carried. Yes, it carried. It passed. Thank you. 4. Okay, next.
Continuing on, again with the Health Department, personal services overtime, again, page 164. They have requested $25,000. I'm not going to repeat what I said before about the fact that eventually I hope the money is going to go to a Department of Health and Human Services. So I'm suggesting that we leave them with 3 months funding for overtime, July, August, September, and that we reduce by 75% their request. So it would go from $25,000 down to $6,250, a reduction of $18,750, which would be overtime for the new department once that it's formed.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
And again, that's personal services overtime,
Right.
Madam President.
Right. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I think it carries. Unopposed. All right. Another one?
Yes, another one is cemetery, and forgive me, I don't have the page number of that, I should. Cemetery Department Personal Services overtime. To date, they have used $88,713. In the next 25 days, and by the way, that leaves them approximately $68,000 or $66,000 for overtime, which I do not believe they're going to spend. So I am proposing, and I would move, to reduce the $150,000 request in the budget book to $100,000, and I think that's consistent with what they're spending, are in line to spend for fiscal year '23. And again, councilors, if something happens and more overtime money is needed, you can always come in, justify it, and we can approve it upon recommendation of the mayor. But this is more to become consistent with what they're spending this year.
Okay, so we have a motion to oh, all right, I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion that's been properly seconded to reduce overtime on the cemeteries, and by the way, that's page 171, from $150,000 to $100,000. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you, it carried. Another one? Go ahead.
Moving right along, councilors, DPW stormwater, and I want to talk about this for just a couple of minutes because frankly, I embarrassed myself by getting sucked into the rabbit hole of stormwater and voting for this ordinance, which I think is probably, well, it ranks up with some of the worst decisions I've made. Yes, I believe there are EPA regulations requiring us to have a stormwater program. I do not believe that we need the type of stormwater regulations and the onerous fees that are being imposed upon businesses and residents which are currently in place. And I'm especially concerned because I wrote about stormwater permits and I received an email back saying, well, you know, we couldn't start any meaningful work on stormwater until 2023 because we lack staff. But if you look at the minutes of the Stormwater Authority meeting back in 2022, there was a business on North Main Street that had a cease and desist order, verbal, issued against them because they did not have a stormwater permit. I have had more obfuscation. I hope it's not intentional. I hope it's perhaps a lack of research or verification, but this program is terrible. And again, you know, there's only so much we can demand of our residents in terms of taxes and fees. This one goes overboard. So We do have an ordinance pending to delete or repeal the stormwater ordinance. I filed that because I feel so disturbed about what I did in the past. I understand they're going to have to operate again for a period of time until that ordinance is enacted. So for July, August, and September, 1/4 of the fiscal year, I would give them 25% of what they've asked for in terms of ordinary maintenance services. That's on page 227 of your budget book. I would remove 75% of what they have requested for stormwater management, which would be the remaining 9 months of the fiscal year 2024. So the account would go from $152,989.50. It would be reduced, strike that. It would be reduced from $203,986 to $50,996.50, a reduction of $152,989.50. And again, that is ordinary maintenance services.
Okay, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
I had discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
I would agree with Councilor Farwell on this. When we read over the law on stormwater, it was not a mandatory requirement in terms of absolutely necessary, and the city would be subject to fines if we did not do this. I don't know how this developed and sort of became a larger octopus than it really needed to be. So I would even propose to go deeper than I'd like to wipe the whole thing out, to be honest with you. But 100%. To me, this should be eliminated completely and redone from the ground up. Because, you know, in terms of when it was explained to us what the expenses were going to, it was very unclear to me what was being covered by the general fund and what this was. To me, it was really just, this is supplemental money to supplement the general fund and take the burden off of the general fund to do things that are not unique to, quote, stormwater, just to pay ordinary salaries and do some ordinary things that are already done. I mean, so I just think this one was a mistake, an honest mistake by people who, you know, were under the impression that it is a dictated law from the federal government, and the city would have been in jeopardy had they not, and penalized. So I would even consider going more than what Councilor Farwell wants to do on this one, but that's my own feeling.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with what has been said from the left side of the aisle here. We were duped, honestly. We were told that if we had not voted, and I don't blame the 4 of you new guys that came in because you had nothing to do with this, but the rest of us that were here, we were basically told that if we had not passed that ordinance when we passed it, that some of us would lose a kidney, somebody else was going to lose a kid, and that's the way, I'm serious, that's the way it was actually, we were pressured into passing this. And it did nothing but create, I know Councilor Menicello said that it goes to the general fund. I wish it did, because at least then you can go back to the community and say, listen, you're paying all this money because it's actually going into the coffers of the city. It's not. It created a brand spanking new bureaucracy in the sense that we're all paying for, and the taxpayers isn't really seeing much on the backside of it. So it seems like we're taxing people with these fees so we can pay people. And I don't think that's the way city government needs to work. And I think, you know, we need to kind of put this on a fast pace in the sense to really look into fixing this wrong in the sense, because like I said, I don't think we were the directions that we got was not the best of directions, and that's why we voted the way we did, because we were concerned that the city was actually at risk in terms of legal liability in a sense. So I also don't agree to cut it down to zero, because we have some of those people within that bureaucracy that we created that we are responsible for, and we got to do the responsible thing to make sure we take care of our obligations. So we made an obligation, and it doesn't matter who made it, it's city government that made it. We've made an obligation that we must uphold, and I think it's important for us to do that, but at the same time send a strong message that this isn't going to go beyond a certain period, that it needs to get fixed. It needs to get fixed by tomorrow, because it actually needed to be fixed 3 days ago. So we need to do that for the good of this community, and I think we need to move forward with this stuff, and I support what you're doing, Councilor Fowler. Thank you, Madam President.
Just through the chair.
Okay.
Just one clarification to Councilor Rodriguez. When I mentioned the general fund, what I meant was, and I should have been clearer, it seems that the monies generated from this stormwater fund are going to pay for things that were part of the general fund and not unique to this new stormwater issue. Like, what is the city providing that, what is this money doing? It should be unique. It should be things that were never done to support, quote, stormwater in these ways, A, B, C, D, and E. No, some of the money, most of the money is going to do things and supplement the general fund, and we're just pushing it off on this new stormwater line item, as opposed, we got it off the books of the general fund because we're now going to use it from the we're going to collect the money from the stormwater. So why don't you just say, well, we're raising your taxes so that we can pay, what we need to pay people to do what we really are ordinarily doing under the DPW, That's my point. It's not all being used for these unique new things to prevent stormwater, exactly. So I, thank you, Madam
Thank you,
President.
Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to my friend from Ward 1, the reason I didn't do what you're suggesting, and I would love to do it, but a number of salaries are partially funded by stormwater. And I was afraid that if we zeroed it out, even with my motion, there's going to be a cascading effect through finance, because they're going to have to go back, and the mayor's going to have to figure out, geez, if they don't have the money, I'm going to have to come up with it to fund certain salaries, because 25% of the salary is stormwater, 50% of this person's salary is stormwater. So I really wanted to give the chief executive and the finance office a chance to react to us if we do the 75%, as opposed to just, cutting it down to zero. So that was my reasoning.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let's vote. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, no one opposed. It carries. Thank you. Something else?
Now, this is
We're on
stormwater
fire.
again. This is personal services other than overtime, age 225. Personal services other than overtime. They requested $342,500. Some of that was for a new position. And I am proposing a 75% cut of $256,875. That would leave them for the next 3 months $85,625.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Councilor, can you just repeat that number, please?
Yes, the request was for $342,500, and I'm suggesting a reduction of $256,875. And that would bring the account down to personal services other than overtime down to $85,625.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor.
So the motion to reduce has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, it carries. Continuing on?
Just one more.
Okay.
I want to start off by saying that this cut is not a political statement. this cut is a frustration and accountability motion. And the motion is, under DPW debt service, page 246, for Aquaria, the request and the obligation, depending upon how legal things work out, is $8,200,800. And I am proposing a $2 million cut that would bring that down to $6,200,800. And the reasoning is that I want to make sure that the agreements that Councilor Rodriguez made when he was mayor are being honored. I want to find out if our emergency backup water service, with whom we have a contractual agreement, are they capable on a sustained basis, if Silver Lake went down, can they provide this city with the water that's needed in an emergency? Have they upgraded equipment? Where are we with the notice of noncompliance that I believe that was filed with them, I want to say a year ago, that they weren't meeting their pumping capability? I read every one of their annual filings. I'm not sure if any of you have time or have the interest, but every year they have to file with the Department of Public Utilities. Every water company has to, a private water company has to file with the Department of Public Utilities an annual report. And it will tell you exactly how many gallons they've pumped. It'll tell you the date on which they pumped the most gallons, whether they've increased capacity. It will tell you if they have upgraded any pumps or other equipment. And believe me, I am not inspired by what I read for Aquaria's annual filings. I think this will bring them to the table, for those of you who are in the legal profession. And they should be. And we should have them in here with our city solicitor and with Commissioner Hill, and I think we need to drill down on exactly what's going on. Because other than that, we're paying the money. I never hear anything. If anyone has ever received an update from Aquaria, by the way, Council, we know you fund us, and this is what we've accomplished. This is the equipment that we've improved. I've never gotten anything, and I'm in my 8th year here. So this isn't political. This is, let's force them in here, and let's drill down on the details, because everyone who comments about how expensive this is, you're quite right. And I don't know what we're really getting.
Okay, so
thank you.
tell us again what it's coming from debt service?
Page 246, it's
Yes.
under DPW debt service.
Yes.
The request is for $8,200,800. I'm suggesting a $2 million reduction to $6,200,800. And that is a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second for the sake of discussion.
Okay. On the
On the
on
motion?
the motion.
Actually, can I just ask you to hold on a minute? I just
Right.
want to make sure we've got the right spot.
I have that H number as diesel fixed charge.
Yeah, the 8 million is the fixed charge.
That's why it's separate.
Debt service is here. Fixed charge. So you want to make your motion out of diesel fixed charge, correct?
Yeah, that's what the Aquaria line.
So that, you know, you're not making me cut out of debt service. You're
Okay.
making a diesel fixed charge.
Madam President?
Yes.
Thanks to assistance from Legislative Counsel and the clerk, I looked at the subcategory debt service, and I should have gone down to desal fixed
Fixed
charge.
charge, okay.
So I would ask, if there's no objection, to amend the motion to remove debt service and put DPW desal fixed charge as the category,
Okay.
as found on page 246.
I have a second to amend that motion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, carries. All right, so that was just to amend the motion.
Yeah.
All right, going from $8,200,800 down to $6,200,800. All right, is there any discussion?
Yes,
Councilor Rodriguez.
Madam President. I agree with Councilor Farwell, because I'm going on my 10th year here, and Aquaria has been a thorn in our side since we've been here. We've been embarrassed by this organization time in and time out. Often, I remember my first 2 years here, we would send them notices to come in front of us, and they would wait until 6:55 and send us an email saying, sorry, we can't make it, just before the council met. And the one time that we got him here with a fire truck and the vice president of this, the vice president of that, is when I actually, during the budget hearings, I had reduced their budget from $7+ million to $1. And they were here within a month to talk to us about that. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is the fact that I honestly don't think that $2 million is significant enough, because they'll have $6 million to operate for as long as they want. As it gets closest to that time when the next payment will go into them, they'll start doing something. I think we need, honestly, if we want to hold these folks accountable and pressure them into doing what they should be doing with this city, and that they were serious about this. I mean, if you sit down and think about it, I believe we have 5 years left in this contract, which means that we've paid them for 15 years at a tune of about $7+ million a year. Think about the amount of money that we have just kind of sent down the drain, basically, no pun intended. But the fact that we've done that for the last 15 years for something that we don't own, something that's not part of our resources, it's not part of our infrastructure, that if they up and left tomorrow, in the sense, we've got nothing to show for the $80+ million that we've paid them in the last 15 years. So I think we need to be a lot stronger with this. And I would actually like to reduce this a lot more than just $2 million, because I think $2 million is not significant enough to get them in here, to force their hands to come here and talk to us about exactly the same thing that you're talking about.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't disagree with the sentiment of both my colleagues. My fear is that, that if I don't want to be in breach of the contract as it is. We should not have to put the city at some legal risk to make our point. I think the $2 million is sufficient. I don't know, and through you, Madam Chair, to Councilor Rodriguez, is it in your intent to go back down to $1? Because if I'm fearful that if we cut it too much, then we risk putting our city in breach of contract and with the legal repercussions that come with that. And so I'm comfortable with the $2 million cut, but you haven't made a proposal, so I wouldn't know what's proper to vote against his and move forward with yours. If you're willing to state what you want, then I think we'd have more information about how to move forward.
Councilor, through the chair, the reason why I said it needs to be significant, you basically are reducing it by 25%. I think it needs to touch the bowels of 50%, somewhere around that area, that it sends a message of urgency. Because if they know that they have 75% of the funds to operate, I don't think that's urgent enough to do that. And as far as the breach is concerned, we have filed with anybody that wants to hear that they've breached their contract several times against us. And I think one of the issues that we had here in the council is that people were saying exactly what you're saying. Well, let's not do anything about it because we don't want to breach the contract. And when it was reduced to $1, nobody came in and says, you're breaching the contract. They looked at it and said, oh, I see that you guys are serious about this. And we had them here having a conversation with us. So I think there's got to be a time that this body has to look at and say, we need to do what's the best for taxpayers in this community. And it's holding some folks accountable for contracts that we have with them. You know, they said they're supposed to produce 5 million gallons a day. They have never pumped 5 million gallons a day consistently. So they themselves, it says that on their contract. So they're not abiding by the contract. They say that they're readily available to give us water on a dime or on a call. They're not. That system constantly breaks down, and they don't communicate with the city when the system breaks down to let the city know that the system breaks down. They were unavailable to produce water for several days last year Do you think a check came back for the city to say, well, I know that you guys paid us for 365 days, but since we did not produce water we were not available to produce water 365 days that year, here's a check back to the city? No, there's no check back for the city. So where's the breach? So it gets to a point where we got to look at it and say, either you do your part, or let's meet up in court and then we can all bring up our cases. Because if we continue to say, well, we're not going to go anywhere because they might sue us, let them sue us. We have been living with this headache for my 10 years that I've been here. There's not a single year that we did not have a problem with Aquaria. Not a single year, and we continue to have it. But the fear factor that existed before I got here was, let's not do anything with Aquaria because they can sue us. And we've done some things with them. Where's the suit? Because they know that they've breached the contract. They know if it went to court that we can prove the fact that they were not available to produce what they're said in the contract that they can produce. So that's why I would want to see, and I wish that Council Farwell would kind of withdraw his motion to make a motion to reduce it for 50%, so we can send a real message to these folks so that, now, mind you, we're saying that we're not saying we're not going to pay the contract. We're not saying that. We're just saying we want to send a strong message to them to know that we are serious about this and we want to hear from them. If they're not willing to hear from us, then they're going to suffer the consequences of $4 million. And that's the message that I want to send to them.
Well, I appreciate that, and I understand, and I don't disagree with the sentiment. If they're in breach, then, we would have leverage in the situation. I wouldn't want to give up that leverage by ourselves falling in breach and then, losing that leverage. But I wanted to hear your position about what you thought was proper before determining what's the proper way forward. But I appreciate you explaining your situation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councillor Farwell.
Councilor Farwell is over here questioning his cognitive ability at this point. I have another Scrivener's error. If the reduction is for $2 million, we would go from $8,700,800 to $6,700,800. This has to be correct because Clerk Cruz has looked it over, and I know his cognitive ability is fine.
Back of the page.
Now, both in response to Councilor Thompson and Councilor Rodriguez, and I don't disagree with Councilor Rodriguez, but here's what I'm trying to do. First of all, if you antagonize, and I'm not an attorney, but if you antagonize parties and if you bring them together, they're probably not going to be very happy to try to work things out and discuss things with you. We're their only customer. You cut $2 million from these people, and they have nowhere to go. In all of their years of existence, there isn't a single other customer of that desal plant other than the city of Brockton. That should set off a bell in a lot of heads about that particular issue. I think $2 million out of $8 million will be a sufficient bell rung to bring them in here. If it isn't, the mayor always has the opportunity by executive order to say, don't cut them any more checks. Don't pay them any more. I'm tired of this. We're going to go to court. I'm not afraid of sending our law department into court, but I would like to start at the first step, which I always think is to try to bring the parties together, see what dialogue you can have, and then you always reserve the right to go from there. So I hope the $2 million reduction prevails. Thank you.
Okay. Councilors, we have another amendment to this. Just let me say this. The total desal fixed charges listed on page 247 of your budget books, and that is $8,700, $800. What?
$8 million.
$8 million, thank you. $8,700,800. And so Councilor Farwell proposes to take that number and to reduce it to $6,700,800. So that is a further amendment to his motion. I need a second.
I second it.
All right, are you going to speak
No,
first?
I want to say just
Okay, go ahead.
one quick thing here, because, Madam President, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so we cut the $2 million. Is it $2 million stretched over 12 months so that because they get checks on a monthly basis? We cut them a check on a monthly basis. Are we going to cut them a check based on the $8 million $700,000, or we're going to cut them a check on a monthly basis based on $6,700,000.
But- Yes. Mr. Clarkson, will you come forward? How are they paid?
Good evening, Madam Chairman and councilors. As you know, there are two components to the contract, the fixed and the variable. The variable is paid obviously only when we call for water under that portion of the contract. The rest of it is paid based on the value of the contract in, I believe it's monthly installments. And so if you make a reduction, it will not reduce the regular payments. The payments are based on the contract, so a reduction will allow us to make the payments under the contract for a finite period of time until we run out of money.
And again, through you, Madam President, how will Aquaria be notified that this action actually took place?
That's a good question, and I'm hesitating because we are, as we discussed the other night, engaged in discussions right now about the breach. So what I'm guessing will happen is after you finalize these numbers, the mayor and the solicitor and the commissioner and I will get together and determine the best way to convey that message.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. All right, so I've got a motion to amend the numbers again, and I've got it seconded. All in favor? All opposed? No one. Okay, it carries. Thank you.
That was to change the amendment now.
Yeah, that was to change the amounts.
Question is now on the amendment.
Okay, and so the question is now on the amendment, the amended amount. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, it carries, a $2 million reduction.
I have one.
Hold on. Thank you, Madam
You're
President.
welcome.
I have one.
Okay. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I too have a reduction that I like to propose from public properties in the other category, stadium purchase of services. I'd like to reduce the account by $60,000, that the appropriation in that account is reduced from $155,000 to $95,000. And the reason for this is basically the same reason that we just talked about with Aquaria. So Aquaria 2, known as the Rock Stadium, is basically doing the same thing that Aquaria 1 is doing. And therefore, since this is the case, we need to send a message to whoever the parties are that are utilizing these services, that the city isn't going to be one of these landlords that has to sit here and clean toilets for people and do the other crazy things that we have to do in that stadium. I was actually looking to reduce this thing down to zero, but as we were told yesterday by our commissioner, that this fund also has something to do with the Shaw Center, and we do have the COA at the Shaw Center. Therefore, that's the reason for leaving $60,000 in that particular area of services, so that the Shaw Center can continue to get its services from public properties. And that's my motion.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, motion, Councilor
Madam President,
Farwell.
I don't know if well, Mr. Clarkson could answer this if he's seen the lease. Because we have a tenant there, will this allow us to meet whatever obligations are in that lease? And I don't believe I've ever received a copy of the lease between the current tenant and the Rock Stadium.
I have seen it. I certainly don't want to offer you a legal opinion on that, but I would say based on what I know of what it takes for the upkeep, the answer is yes.
Fine, thank you. That's all I need to know.
That's if we were.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, Councilor Lally.
On the motion,
All right.
I just had a question for the CFO that with this cut, we are sure that this will not have any negative impact on the COA and their temporary rehousing?
Yes.
No negative for them?
I can say for you with certainty that there will be no impact on the operations of the Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, this says it's for the stadium.
Yes.
Right, it's the same
All
complex.
together.
Right, okay. So no impact on either the stadium or the convention center?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, thank you, Rita. All right. Do you want to say something?
No, I'm done.
Okay, a motion's been made and properly seconded.
Just a
Councilman
clarifi-
Minicello.
Just clarification. So this cut would not interfere with the lease, or it could interfere with the lease? This proposed cut could put us in breach of the lease or interfere with that, or it will not interfere with the lease?
What I said, Counselor, was as it relates to the lease, I wouldn't want to offer a legal opinion to you. Obviously, I'm not an attorney.
So we don't know, is what you're saying then?
But I don't believe that the proposed cut would impact our ability to perform our maintenance under the lease.
Okay.
I could just stay here if you'd like.
Sure.
As well. Say that with confidence.
Okay, councilors, a motion's been, did you want to speak?
No, just a vote.
Okay, a motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor? And opposed? Thank you, it carries. All right. Councilor Mendez.
Thank you so much. I make a motion to cut the budget, and this is not really against any department. It's just all of my motion is going to be for personal services for overtime, and that is just to allow us and give us an opportunity from the department heads. I do think they did a phenomenal job. They came and they explained to us about the operations and the vacancies that they have and how they are trying to fill the vacancies and why they need the overtime. But I left enough money in there to allow them to continue their operations, and as that money is getting short, and there will be an opportunity for them to just come before the city council and let us know how their department is doing. So it's really a way for them, an opportunity for them to come before us and tell us about that. So all of my proposal is going to be to cut the overtime from the departments, and I hope that they'll be able to fill their positions and use the overtime money with cautious, and then come back to the city council and explain to us how their department is running and how things are going. So with that said, I will just go through each of them and tell you what the proposed motion is and ask for the council's support. So the first one is for DPW Highway Personal Services overtime.
Is it one motion?
I'm going to do one more at a time. Yes, that is correct. And to cut by $100,000, so it's reduced from $300,000 to $200,000 for that overtime line item. And I need a second.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Councilor Farr will second it. Is there any discussion? All right, a motion's been made and properly seconded.
Madam President?
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Okay. To reduce DPW Highway Personal Services overtime from $300,000 to $200,000.
Madam President, I'm sorry, on the motion.
Okay.
Just a question to Mr. Clarkson. And again, this will not stop overtime on July 1st. That department will still be able to fully function, but if they get to a point where more overtime funds are needed, they would have to go to the mayor and come before us with an appropriation. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
So we're not stopping what the DPW Highway is doing. We're just demanding more accountability.
Right, which makes, frankly, the monthly monitoring that we do all the more important now.
Thank you.
And that is the reason why I'm proposing.
Okay. So a motion has been made. Would you like to speak on the motion?
I do. Madam President, there are 3 departments within DPW that I think the world of. One is the water department, the sewer, and the highway department. These individuals are the backbone, as I said the other night, of our city government in the sense, the unsung heroes. These individuals did not get any special horn tooting during COVID. They were out there every single day of the week doing the work that 99% of us wouldn't do. So that's why I am one of these hawks about overtime as well, Counselor. But it's those three departments of departments that I see that are busting their humps in the city, snowing, raining, shining, or whatever the situation is. I think it just kind of sends not the best of messages in the sense, because I think one of the things that we need to do to control overtime in this city is perhaps bring these department heads in front of us to basically have a lot more accountability in the way they spend their overtime within their departments. But I think when we just basically cut a significant number of a department that I think is they're part of the backbone of this community, I find it a little excessive, and it's probably something that I'm not going to support when it comes to at least those three departments within DPW. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. Councillor Lally.
On the motion, Madam President? I sort of want to echo Councillor Rodriguez. As a councillor in my time on the council, my experience, one of the departments that we most depend on to just keep things running is the DPW as a whole, but the departments like water, utilities, highway, and really most of the DPW, if not all, are the things that we see and rely on the most to solve most of the issues that we get calls on, and a lot of these issues are solved with this overtime. I can't endorse an overtime cut of a department I'm then going to depend on so significantly and turn around. Even if we can hit them with the logic of, oh yeah, we can give this back to you, I think a more prudent measure for some of these departments would be to, not to insert myself into the affairs of the chair, but the accounts committee, some kind of a review of overtime there. But I cannot support a cut to departments like this. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Before you say anything, I'd like to say, I note on the expense summary at page 211 that in 2022, the actual overtime expense for this department was $276,081.22. So it was approximately $25,000 less than what we're being asked to approve tonight, okay, 2 years later. Councilor Minicello, did you want to say something?
No,
Okay, Councilor Farwell.
No, just to wrap it up, I think what Councilor Mendez is saying, by all means, they deserve the overtime. If they work it, they're going to get paid for it. But instead of writing a large check for overtime from us to that department, she's saying, let's be a little more conservative, give them overtime money with the option of coming back and showing us why additional funds are needed. And that's why we sit here. So I commend her for doing that. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
All right, everyone? All right, let's vote on it. All in favor?
And roll call, you were requested for.
Oh, roll call, forgive me.
Azak?
No.
D'Agostino?
No.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
No.
Mendez?
Yes.
Minicello?
No.
Nicastro?
No.
Rodriguez?
No.
Texera?
No.
Thompson?
No.
It fails.
Okay, so it was 2 in favor and 8 opposed. Another one? Go ahead.
Yes. The other department that I make a motion to reduce its parks and recreation, personal services overtime, to reduce it by 100,000, so from 250,000 to 150,000.
Which one?
Parks and Recreation, personal services overtime.
Isn't that the one that you're going to do, Madam President?
Yep.
Was it the same numbers?
I didn't hear it. What was your reduction, Counselor Mendez?
Yeah, 100,000. So from 250 to 150.
Yes, it is.
All right,
Parks and
second.
Recreations.
Roll call this one as well.
Okay. All right. I just want to say in support of this that I researched the last 5 years of parks overtime. And in 5 years, it has gone up $100,000, which is a lot of money. And so I think I will support this, and I, in fact, was going to make this motion at some point. So, anyone else want to say something? Counselor Farwell.
I think this is a prudent reduction. I'm not going to say what I said before about options, but it might force that department to look at restructuring, perhaps asking for additional personnel rather than expending money for overtime, bring someone else in on staff so that we actually get additional services for the revenue that's being expended. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Roll call vote.
Roll call is requested.
Forgive me.
Azak?
No.
D'Agostino?
No.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
No.
Mendez?
Yes.
Minicello?
No.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
It went 5-5, failed to obtain a favorable vote. It fails.
Fails.
Yeah, 5-5. Okay. Counselor Mendez.
Yes. The other department that I propose to cut is public property and personal services overtime, and reduce that account by $70,000, so it's from $170,000 to $100,000 and $200.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second. Roll call vote, Madam President.
All right.
Second.
On the motion.
Motion, Counselor Farwell.
Mr. Clarkson, could you or your staff tell us what has been expended to date in FY '23 in this category, please?
It's 365.
Although I'm giving you the answer, it's because of the hard work of this great reference guide that Tiff put together that I'm able to give it to you, so I'm giving credit where it's firmly due.
I thought that was true of everything.
This is the public property overtime.
Yes,
The budgeted for this year was $108,200.
yes.
I have expended thus far $106,851, so virtually all of it has been spent thus far.
What's the reduction by?
70,000.
70.
70?
160.
170, 200 minus 70, which he's motioning. Bring it down to 100/200.
Name your price.
Okay, Counselor Farwell.
Madam President, through you to Councilor Mendez, given the expenditure to date, which doesn't include the last 15 days of June, it would look to me as though they might finish around 120,000. It's your motion, but would it be more prudent to reduce by 50,000, which would leave them basically with what they're spending this year? And again, it's just a suggestion, that's all.
Yeah, I can do that motion to reduce it by 50,000 instead of 70,000.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of this motion to reduce the number to 50,000?
Roll call vote, Madam President.
Roll call vote.
Just on
Okay.
the change from 70 to 50?
Oh, sorry, never mind. No.
Right, yeah.
This would just be a vote to change her original motion from 70 to 50.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carries.
No questions on a roll call vote.
And the question on the motion for this reduction by roll call vote.
Azak?
No.
D'Agostino?
No.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
No.
Mendez?
Yes.
Minicello? Nacastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
5-5, failed to obtain a favorable vote.
All set, thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Okay. Counselor D'Agostino?
Thank you, Madam President. My first proposed cut, Planning and Economic Development, Purchase of Services, reduce that by $75,000. The current appropriation is $314,800, and it would change to $239,800. The amount allocated to the DIF changed, increased by $75,000 from the current fiscal year to the FY24, and I just don't see the need to increase that at this time, so I'm looking to just keep that level funded.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay.
Well,
So a motion has been made and properly seconded to reduce the Planning and Economic Development Department personal services by $75,000.
Purchase of services.
Purchase of services, forgive me, by $75,000
Just-
from $314,800 to $239,800.
on the motion, sorry.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, the DIF is to support the downtown redevelopment. We have a lot of downtown redevelopment going on at the moment. We did this last year, and Planner May had to come back. I think he made a satisfactory argument as to why our downtown requires these funds. This is, our downtown's the heartbeat of our city. We have a plan on moving forward with our downtown, and these DIF funds help support that. I just, I would not support any decrease in these DIF funds, especially since we did it last year. Mr. May came back before us, made a coherent argument as to why those cuts were, not in the best interest of the city. He's finally getting some more money because of further development in our downtown, and I just think this would slow that development or just cause unnecessary disruption to his plans to develop, or his plans to hire consultants to help us to develop our downtown. So I'm asking that this council votes against this cut. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay. Counselor Farwell, I'm sorry, Rodriguez.
Yeah, the other Farwell.
It's an odd couple.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could, Madam President, through you, ask the CFO to give us an idea what was spent last year on the downtown DIF, if you have that available.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fiscal year.
This current fiscal year?
Yes.
Thus far, $30,350 has been expended.
Did you say 30,000, like 30,000?
Yes, however, I am showing and that the 215,000 has been encumbered, which it would have to go back and Munis and check if there was a purchase order or a contract that was entered into, then the money was encumbered for that, but it hasn't yet been paid. It would show under encumbered. So in total, it looks like about 245,000 has been committed, and that was made possible by the restoration that Councilor Thompson referenced. Because originally, the proposed budget for this current fiscal year was 300. You reduce that by 175 to a budget of 125, and so 30 was spent, and then I'm guessing based on what I'm seeing here, after the money was restored, then the rest was encumbered.
Thank you, Mr. CFO. Thank you, Madam President.
Councillor Farwell.
The other Rodriguez?
Yes. Yes.
Seriously, Mr. Claxon, there's an old municipal finance trick, which I hope I never did, but you encumber the money kind of vendor unknown, just so that at the end of the fiscal year, it doesn't look like it wasn't important and it wasn't used. We don't have a system that allows you to do that, do we?
When I became the chief financial officer, I stopped the practice of just general encumbrances. So any encumbrance needs to be for a contract that's in place.
All right, and during the budget discussions with department heads, you discussed this, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. You have no idea what this money is going to be used for, do you?
No, I mean, I do know generally because I met with Mr. May, with my staff, when they made the original proposal and agreed to put this amount forward. Then Mr. May and I both met with the mayor and before this got into the final proposal. So the specific programs and projects and contracts, no, but generally the items about which Councilor Thompson spoke, yes.
Councilors, I don't disagree that we need to help the downtown, but if this is reduced, it can always be appropriated again. Let's find out, what are we going to do with the money? How will it be spent? What are the priorities for that expenditure? And what will our return be if we spend the money? I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, we do it in our own home family budgets. And I apologize, I did step out of the room when Mr. May was here the other day, but if someone can tell me with any specificity what that money is going to be used for, I might be comfortable. But I have no idea. Thank you, Madam President.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. Just some of the things that I know that these funds are being used for are involved in the package that Mr. May handed off to us yesterday. We have a retail consultant to try to bring businesses, retail business down to downtown. We're currently doing a rezoning plan of our downtown. We have a consultant, which I'm a member of the working group, to move to form-based zoning code downtown to make our zoning laws a little more flexible so that it's not just draw a circle and that's what goes into it. And so we're pretty involved in that. We've got the CSX property coming up where we're doing a we're seeking out the qualifications, request for qualifications for a master developer of that area. He handed us a plan of what type of commercial, industrial, and residential development is happening downtown. I think, Mr. May's in front of us, probably one of the department heads that's before us more often than almost any other department head in the city. I think every single one of us are a part of a Montello group, a Campanello group. I think what's happening downtown is evident. We had him come back last year. We heard him out. We agreed to give him the money. I think he met our expectation that these monies are needed, that they're being used appropriately, and they're being used for the benefit of not just our downtown, but for the city at large. And so I think he presented a more clear reason for these funds than almost any other department head and how they're using their funds. And so there's a lot of things happening downtown. I just named 4 or 5, and there's a lot more than that going on. So I just don't support any cuts to the diff, and I think those funds are being used appropriately and in the best interest of our city. Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam President.
Councillor's point of information. It's a reduction from purchase of services, not necessarily from downtown diff. It's from the whole, category. Okay? So, anyone else? All right,
Question on adoption.
what?
Question just on adoption. Nobody asked for a roll call or anything.
Okay, so let's vote.
Can-
All in favor of this reduction?
Can we, I was going to ask for a roll call,
We have
but
a roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote.
second.
Razak,
No.
DiAgostino,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
No.
Minicello. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Texera,
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
6-4.
It carries. Counselor DiAgostino.
Thank you. Okay, my next cut, DPW engineering, personnel services other than overtime, and this will hold true of my remaining cuts. There is a vacant assistant engineer position, and all of these are directed at, and where it will go, obviously, that's up to the department head, but my intention is to take the money away for positions that have been vacant in previous years and are still vacant, because if they've been vacant for multiple years, I don't see why we keep funding them. There are a few departments that when they came in and we had these discussions, I thought made a good case for a couple of positions to not touch, but for the most part, that's what these are going to be. So DPW engineering, personal services other than overtime, cut that by $50,000. The appropriation in that account would be reduced from $306,397 to $256,397.
Counselor, wouldn't it come off the entire personal services non-overtime and not just off that line item?
Yes. Personal services, non-overtime. Oh, did I not say that? I'm sorry.
No, you took it off the line item.
I said my intention was.
But his motion was personal services other than overtime.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
However, actually, you are reading the wrong line. The total line,
Right.
Counselor, is 341,555.
You just want 50,000, right?
Right. Did I do the math wrong here?
No, you took it just from the salaries, which is the top line.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Okay.
So it would be 341,555 minus, oh, I'm sorry, 50,000 is that what it was?
2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I screwed the rest of them up, too.
Which would leave 291,555.
Okay. All right. Do I need to reread that with the correct numbers? Is that? Okay. All right. So a correction. Personal services other than overtime, reduced by 50,000. That would take the appropriation from $341,550,000 to $291,550,000.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
555.
All right. Is there any discussion? Okay, then a motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor?
He's going to fire all of us.
Opposed? Okay, it carries.
Next, and unfortunately, I made the same error of doing the math from the wrong spot. So DPW sewer. Hell's my pen? I apologize. Your pen? I don't know what I did with it.
Yeah, take that one.
Thank you. All right, give me a minute. DPW sewer, personal services, non-overtime. Oh, no, I think I got this one right. Okay. I think I got this one correctly. So it would be a reduction of $68,816. The appropriation of that account would be reduced from $1,561,324,000 to $1,492,508,000. Okay. And again, the intention is about a multi-year vacant position.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the last one.
On the second one, 68,816.
8816, thank you.
I should add, when I was doing the math on the amount to cut, it was the salary, and if there was an education incentive listed with that position, I added those together, because
All right.
that just makes sense.
Did you get a second?
A second? You
Second.
seconded, David seconded, yes.
So you can just do hand vote?
Okay, a motion's been made and properly seconded, all in...
Madam
oh,
President.
On the
I
motion?
apologize. I was engaged in a brief sidebar conversation.
Sure.
Tell us what the cut is, and again, it will not happen again, I assure you.
Counselor D'Agostino, would you just repeat that?
I would be happy to. Personal services other than overtime from DPW sewer, reduced by $68,816. The appropriation in that account would be reduced from $1,561,324 to $1,492,508.
Did you get that? Counselor Farwell?
I do,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so that is our motion, and it has been seconded. All in favor? Who is opposed? Okay, we've got one opposed. All right, thank you. It carries.
I think there was more than one opposed, Madam
Doesn't matter,
President.
carried.
Do you need these? Those are both of those. Okay. Next, I have
You were,
DPW water.
okay.
That passed. Whatever he just.
Yeah, that's got to be right. Personal services other than overtime.
Attention, Rodriguez.
Reduce the account by $151,697. The appropriation in that account would be reduced from $2,766,52 to $2,608,955.
Okay, do we have a second?
I did that right.
Second.
Thank you.
Yeah, please do.
All right. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, a motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Wait, I think that
it-
went 5
What,
to 5.
was it?
Yeah, I think
Can
so.
we have a roll call vote?
Second?
Azak,
No.
D'Agostino,
Yes.
Farwell,
No on this one.
Lally,
No.
Mendez,
Yes.
Minicello,
No.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
No.
Texera,
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
Fails 4 to 6.
Okay, failed.
Next, information technology, personal services other than overtime. Reduce the account by $145,338. Appropriation in that account would be reduced from $1,403,530 to $1,258,192.
Do we have a second?
For the
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes. Problem?
Okay, counselors, we have a motion that's been made and properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it fails.
And then I have just two more. City clerk, personal services other than overtime, account reduced by $38,337. Appropriation in that account is reduced from $607,078 to $568,741.
Do we have a second?
Not by me.
For the sake of discussion, I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
All right, I've got a motion that's been made and properly seconded.
Just
Is
on
there
the
any
motion?
discussion?
On the motion.
Okay, Council Farwell.
And actually, this is, would be to the clerk. Administrative Assistant 1, and it actually relates to something that a guest speaker who came to the public hearing mentioned. $38,337. I got to tell you, I know the type of work that your office does. Wouldn't it be better to cut this, and then perhaps you need an admin too, or a different position in there, because that is not exactly a robust salary for the type of
No,
confidential
as
work.
a matter of fact, as I discussed with the counselor, I wouldn't hire anybody at an admin 1. As it is an admin 2, I'd like to see,
Yeah.
I've had long-term discussions with the CFO and the mayor need to be raised, but it would probably be better if I came back. It wouldn't kill me to lose that spot and come back to you when I can arrange it. Right now, I'd like to fill that spot, but it's not enough money to hire somebody, and I don't have the physical space to put them yet. So it wouldn't be, and as I said the night of my testimony, that spot right there would not kill me, and when I can find the space for them, I would probably come back, because I would need more. You can't hire anybody year-round at that salary.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Councilors, a motion's been made and properly seconded for this cut. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? Okay, it carries.
All right. That's it.
That's it? Okay. Councilman Minicello?
I have a proposed cut to reduce from the library personal services, 145,338, from a budget of 2,552,315, which would bring it down to 2,406,977. The library has had very, very good growth the last couple of years. There's positions that have been filled. We have other departments who we know from Councilor Rodriguez having, cemetery brought in here. They obviously need more personnel in order to serve the public. I definitely have heard people muttering and sputtering about scheduling of funerals, and so there are issues there. We certainly have heard people talking about the parks and the condition of the parks. More personnel in the Parks Department would certainly help maintain what we have that, to me, is not maintained where it should be in certain areas. We have a crisis, obviously, with over the other side of the street with regard to the schools. I just feel that that this would be a prudent time to take a reduction to this department, who has been certainly expanding, and where there are other needs in the city and the other departments. That's my reasoning.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
On the
145 and Jimmy, you have, Mr. Clerk, you have my sheet.
You
145.
count from $2,552,315
The cut was for Tim, 145.
minus 145,338.
Okay, thank you.
I'll tell you what the final number will be.
That's a no.
Madam President, through you to the council, where is that coming from? I know what
There's a couple of
the bottom
proposed
line is coming
positions.
from. Is it
A couple of proposed
positions?
positions.
Services, non-overtime.
Under personal services, a couple of proposed positions.
Okay.
All right, thank
Councilor
you.
Lally?
On the motion, Madam President?
Yes.
Thank you. I just had a question for Mr. Clarkson. The Director of Libraries, when he was testifying on his budget, noted that some of these positions or this funding could be directly related to sort of resources we can get from outside of the city. does the cut of these positions have, other than the loss of these positions, any adverse effect on the library department?
Let me just thumb to that. I believe what the library director was referencing during his hearing was that the addition of these positions would avail the library of grants that they may not have the ability to go for now. That's just speaking from memory when I was seated next to him. But I'm not aware of any funding that's directly tied to these positions.
An important distinction. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Oh, you're welcome. Counselor Farwell.
A question for Mr. Clarkson. If you look at that page in the budget book 306 and these vacant positions, how could we possibly budget an educational incentive amount for people that aren't even hired yet when we wouldn't know their educational attainment?
So I'll thumb to the page. That's a good question. It's a budgeting tool that we use because generally in the library services, the staff tends to be more educated in general than other departments. Managers have masters in library science, and so when you create a position or have a vacancy, generally we will budget for the educational incentive because it's highly likely that a library employee will have at least a bachelor's, if not an advanced degree.
It just struck me as being a bit odd. I obviously, if we hired someone, we'd be contractually obligated to pay them, but boy, this is a question to you, Mr. Clarkson. Have both these grade level 2s been vacant for more than a year? If you know. No?
I believe these ones
Or maybe they're new.
were proposed new positions, so no, they have not been vacant.
Through the chair.
Right, those are proposed new positions, aren't they? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
My understanding concurs with Mr. Clarkson that these are proposed positions. These were not on there for last year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No other discussion. The motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It fails. Okay, something else, Councilor Minichiello?
No, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Texera?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
He's got a book.
It's from DPW SOAR, from Purchase and Service. I'm gonna make a proposal to make a cut, $311,760 from 10 million to, it's from 10,649,816 to 10,338,056.
Forgive me, I didn't hear the beginning of what you said. Where is this cut from?
Purchase and Service.
What department?
SOAR Department.
Sewer, okay. All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Where exactly is that coming from?
It's that 12.
Is there any discussion? See, I didn't write it all down. I'd like to repeat
So
it.
I just want to check it. So purchase of services, 10,649,816.
Madam.
We're just checking our numbers.
So the motion is for a cut from DPW purchase of services, reduced from $10,649,816, reduced $311,760 to make the total appropriation $10,338,056.
Okay. Councilor Farwell?
Question to Mr. Clarkson. Given the remaining appropriation, which is pretty substantial, you don't see this crippling the sewer department's ability to function, correct?
Not at all.
And if they need additional funds, you can...
We can come back, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just
Councilor Thompson?
to Mr. Clarkson as well, since this cut is from enterprise fund, it just remains in that enterprise fund, right? And it would, if a requested transfer, it would be what, from, where would, if, say they wanted to come back to refund this line item, since it's not going to the general, it'll remain within the enterprise fund, how does that operate?
It depends on the time of year. Right now, we held back some retained earnings and didn't use it all to balance the budget. So between now and December, we would use certified retained earnings. Once we submit the balance sheet to the Department of Revenue, there's a short window in which we couldn't. And then after that, we would raise it from the enterprise revenues.
So essentially, it would, at some point, the cut becomes retained earnings.
Yes, because the revenues of the enterprise support the overall operation. So yeah, the revenues will be the same, and so the money we don't spend would go into retained earnings next year.
Right, understood. Thank you.
On the motion, anyone else? Okay, we have a motion that's been made and properly seconded. All in favor of this reduction? Opposed? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, fails. Another one?
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
I thought you had a book.
I had a book, but they
We take a
took all
recess
mine,
then so we can
All
totally.
right,
Go to
we're
health
finished.
and-
Okay, we're going to take a recess. And we resume. And at this time, it's a vote to approve the budget as amended, which includes the total reductions of $4,291,216.75.
Questions on roll call, question on roll call.
We'll have a roll call vote.
Azak.
Yes.
D'Agostino.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Minicello.
Yes.
Castro.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
Okay,
Madam President, I move reconsideration in the hope it does not prevail.
Second.
okay. So we have a motion for reconsideration in the hopes that it fails. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you, it fails. That's very good. Okay, Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. For the information of our residents and my fellow city councilors, the Brockton Beautification Committee has set up another cleanup event. This is going to be held on Saturday, June 24th at the East Middle School. So we welcome all parents, children, anybody interested in pitching in. This is going to be, we're going to meet at 8:30 a.m. in the parking lot at East Middle School. Please join us. Thank you, Madam President.
Oh, you're welcome. And we will not be meeting next week as either the council or the finance committee. Our next meeting will be as council on Monday, June 26th at 7 p.m. And if there isn't anything else, good work, councilors. We're adjourned.